Welcome, everyone, to the Co-Creators Convergence Thursday night Creator Convo. I'm here with my beloved Bob Warner.
Hey, everyone. Good evening. We are delighted to be here with amazing conversationalist Victoria and her special guest with her as well, Riane Eisler. This is going to be a very exciting evening. We're looking forward to hearing all about these new books for kids. Wow. Thanks, everybody, for being here at Timeless Time on Thursday night with the Co-Creators Convergence.
Yes, we're going to learn from Victoria Friedman and Riane Eisler. They have two wonderful books are going to be talking about children's books of love and care. So what I want to do now is I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Co-Creators Convergence and what we have coming up. And then we'll be back. I'll do a formal introduction of Victoria. She will lead us in a meditation. And then we will be off to the races with Victoria and Riane. So please stand by. So welcome, everyone, to the Co-Creators Convergence. I'm here with my dear friend, Victoria Friedman. And before she jumps in and tells us about this facet of her most creative self, because she is so multi-talented and creative, and I just am thrilled that she's here. But let me give you a little bit of formal introduction, and then I'll tell you what I really think of her. Just something so amazing. So Victoria is a visionary artist, author, and co-founder of WholeWorld-View, a nonprofit organization dedicated to self-discovery, collective consciousness, and spontaneous creativity. Graduating with a BA in Fine Arts, she worked as a ceramicist, selling to galleries across the United States. She started the Clayway Art Center, offering clay classes with many as 70 children a week for 10 years. Following that, she founded Spirit Club for Children, which lasted 8 years, a labor of love where her inspired stories delighted young and old. Her beloved children know her as Tori, the fairy queen of the middle world, I believe. Victoria is the author of Spirit Doodling, the effortless expression of no mind, and the children's book, Clarissa the Fish. And you can contact her at vistarview.org or victoria8@optonline.net. So welcome, my dear friend, Victoria. I'm going to ask you to unmute. And so now I'll tell the rest of the story, the true story of Victoria and Noel and Bob and Ron. We've been devil dating for over a decade. And we met through our teacher, Barbara Marks Hubbard, and with who this whole organization is really, I consider a legacy group of Barbara's work. And we have known each other since the Birth 2012 movement, and we've just become just great friends. And we miss each other. We don't get to see each other that often, but you know, every time we're with Ron and Victoria, our vibration just keeps spiraling up as the wisdom and creativity that they share with us. And we're just so grateful to have you in our lives, Victoria and Ron. So that's something about our dear friend. I wanted to just add a personal note to the formal introduction. But you can learn more about their work at, as I said, at thistarview.org. So what I want to do now, Victoria, I'm going to turn it over to you. Please lead us in a meditation. And I know we are going to be joined by Riane Eisler in a little bit, but I'm going to turn the beautiful emerald golden crusted talking stick over to you, my dear friend. Welcome, everyone.
Hello, everyone. I feel like I'm in the Wizard of Oz, the emerald crusted talking stick. Wow. Well, Noel and I have done a lot of magical things together, very magical and very spiritual and very fun, fun things. And so, yes, let's just start with presencing ourselves here. And Ron and I were actually talking this morning about space consciousness, like space, like the room we're in now, the room we're in here, the room that we're all sitting in what appears like a different room, right? We're all sitting in this different room. So I'd like you to look around, and there are a lot of objects in the room. If you look, you'll see a lot of objects, including yourself. It's an object in the room. It's taking space, right? That object is taking space. It's in space. So you might want to close your eyes now and imagine where you're sitting, that the objects are all gone, except what you're sitting on. Keep the chair. The objects are all gone. Those objects can be taken out of that space anytime. You can move them out, you can move them in. The walls of the space seem very strong, but truly, they can go away. Those walls can go down. It might be very cold up here in the Northeast if the walls went down, but those walls only define, they hold a little bit of space. So if those walls were to go down, where would we be sitting? Would the space ever go away? So this is the question of the children's books, that one brightness that we're going to be speaking about. Just feel that space. The objects can change. Will the space ever change? How far is that space? Of all the mountains and all the buildings which just emerge in that space, like waves emerge in an ocean. But if that was all gone, there would just be space. Infinite space, actually. Do we know where it ends? Now, all the objects of space they can disappear. They can be gone away. I mean, they can explode. They could be burned. They're impermanent, including our body. But the space is permanent, and the space is unchanging. And the space is not affected. The space in my room is not affected by the couch. So this whole creation is the emergence of objects in this amazing, unbelievable space that we're all in. And I guess the last thing I'd like you just to consider is, if the chair we're sitting on and our body were to disappear, where would we be? Could it be that we are still in the space? Could it be that we are the space? Thank you. And I guess I want to tell you just briefly how these stories happened. And it's been a wild ride. It's been like a party, a huge party with Riane Eisler and Jude Currivan and Kurt Johnson and a theologian and a Sufi scholar who's on the team. So what happened was the synergy circle of the evolutionary leaders, it's called the Unitive Narrative Synergy Circle. It's a circle that is put together, the overriding, the overview of everything, the space, everything that we want as a large perspective. So that unity narrative circle was charged with putting together the unit of perspective, the unit of narrative, which would then be sent to all the other synergy circles and also eventually affect the UN and the Sustainable Development Goals. So it was like a little brain factory, you know. I mean, had all the people and that are very smart. And they put together 17 pages. So that was a very long thing. And then it actually went down to 7 pages. And then I guess somebody there, I think perhaps Kurt, we call him King Kurt, king of all the wild things. If you read The Wild Things, Where the Wild Things Are, King is king of all the wild things. So King Kurt, he said, you know what, let's see if Victoria Friedman can do a story on the unit of narrative for 5 or 6-year-olds, for children. You know, they just wanted to see how that would be simplified. So they asked me that, and I said yes, or I said, I don't know, we'll see, you know. And of course, you know, it started to come to me, like all the stories that just come to me. They started in a very mysterious place years ago when I met a wizard, and he told me that I would be getting stories for children. And so it happened, really. So that's what happened. And the unit of narrative story started to come to me immediately. One brightness came to me, one brightness. And as the story began to develop, there were a lot of questions, a lot of big questions, as you can imagine. So, you know, I complained to Kurt a little bit. And he said, okay, I think I think I should ask Jude Currivan to call you, or to get together, for you to get together with Jude, because she may have some inspiration for you. So I got together with Jude, and it certainly was inspiring. Beyond inspiring, I mean, I started reading Gaia. And if any of you have read Gaia, as being an art major and a person who's run circles for years, you can imagine the intricacy of the science in Gaia was not something that I could even want to get my head around. But I want to tell you, it opened wonder. It was so wonderful. It just opened a sense of wonder. Nothing could be more expansive than hearing something that Jude Currivan has written about the universe. It just takes you right there. It takes us completely there. So that's what happened, and we started working on the book, and she was inspiring some of it, and that's what happened. There's Riane. Hi, Riane.
Hi,
Welcome.
and I'm so glad to be with you.
Yeah, glad you're back. So far, all I've done is tell them a little bit how One Brightness started. I haven't even told them about what happened with you and me. So I think I'm going to show them some of One Brightness, and we can talk about some of the points in it, some of the ideas in it. So I'll bring you in, and then we'll go on to do much more time on the fog busters. Dr. Riane Eisler is a systems scientist, cultural historian, attorney, consultant, and speaker, whose research showing how to construct a more equitable and less violent world based on partnership rather than domination has inspired scholars and social activists. She's the president of the Center for Partnership, editor-in-chief of the Interdisciplinary Journal of Partnership, and internationally known for her bestseller, The Chalice and the Blade, Our History, Our Future. And that book is now in its 57th US printing and in 24 foreign languages. I mean, who could believe this? It is amazing. I must say, I learned so much. I was right on the, surface of a lot of things, and this took me way deeper, and it just was revelatory. She's written other books applying her research to evolution, religion, education, sexuality, economics, and politics. Riane's keynote conferences worldwide, she teaches online, consults on partnership model, and has pioneered expansion of human rights to include, most of all, humanity, women, and children. And that's when we'll be going into the Fogbuster story, because that is her work is put into there for children to look at. And it's so obvious when you hear about it. It's hidden in plain sight. Her The Real Wealth of Nations Created a Caring Economics was hailed by Archbishop Desmond Tutu as a template for a better world we have been so urgently seeking. And you can find her website, encourage you to do that, at rianeeisler.com. But we'll be hearing more about her work in the Fogbusters. But Riane, I'd love you to come in with me on the Brightness book, because that came first. So we're just going to do that first. So here we are, ladies and gentlemen. So here he is. This is the cover story. So we'll go right to the beginning here. So before time and space, before the universe began, there was nothing, no thingness, and not a sound to be heard. Now, Jude actually starts her book with the breath, which is beautiful, because that's a baby. It's born as a breath, and then there's a sound. But with children 5, 6, 8, 7 years, that did not ring too well for us. So no thingness. Take a minute there, and that would be something very interesting to ask ourselves. How would we explain that to a child? What will we say about that? Now, I was on a call today with Jude and a few other people, and they were saying that children who are very young actually know these things. They resonate to any kind of truth. They know it. It's when they get older and get really conditioned that suddenly they're going like, what's that? But when they're early and young, they know this. So no thingness. Would anybody like to just say something about that? Riane, would you like to?
Well, I'm going to let you talk about Jude's book without interrupting.
Okay, all right, fine. So no thingness, that space that we did the meditation with, and not a sound to be heard. See, all these things have great implications, and it's very important for children to hear whatever truths we have, wherever we have them. We may not have the whole truth. Can't say and nothing but the truth, but it's the sound of truth. It's not the words of what's being said. It's the sound of truth that children really reverberate to. And suddenly, from the empty darkness, a beautiful sound filled the emptiness everywhere. And in just 3 minutes, a gigantic light lit up our universe with one brightness. Now, this is straight from Jude's book. Believe it or not, the scientists at this point are saying that in our 3 minutes, this is hard to imagine, in our 3 minutes, the universe was lit up in what it is like for us 3 minutes. I don't know what to say about that. One thing about talking to the children about these things, I always just say to parents and grandparents, just tell them how you see it. But, it may not be, we don't have to know everything. We might not know some things. We can just say, I don't know really. So there was this one brightness. And out of that one brightness, sparklings with eyes of love beamed out into that space. This is like we're decorating the space. We decorate the space in our house, right? You put in couches and chairs and paintings and sculptures and, well, this is the creative impulse, decorating space with sparklings, manifesting as singing, as twinkling planets and galaxies, and then solar system and rotating planets. By the way, this is the sequence that's from Jude. I didn't know which came first or what happened, but that's what it came. So they all came out like that. And then for a long time, it was very, very hot. And then it began to cool down. Interesting point here is, according to Jude, what is hot in space is blue. Things in space that are hot are blue. But again, we kind of felt licensed for the children to take that there. I don't know, we just like that red. So we took that creative license. It began to cool down. And this is the exciting part. On a little teeny tiny planet called Earth, sparklings appeared. And what did sparklings appear as? As water and fish and dinosaurs and birds and apples and trees and diamonds and insects and you and me. This is the decor on our Earth. There's a lot of decor here, and we're right up there in that decor. The sparklings were thrilled. They were all dressed up as different characters, but one thing that they knew is that they were all one brightness. They just knew that. So they continued creating, right? The sparklings continued creating. Sparklings created computers and houses and skyscrapers. And the Squishmallow, see, this is a Squishmallow. It's a toy that's been really popular for kids. Somebody made $1 billion. It's very big, like that big. They're all the same size. They all have the same design, and they have different animals, and they're very soft. It's like Ninja Turtles was like very big for a while. So this is Squishmallows and Legos and ice cream. So the creative impulse, the one brightness, is what the sparklings are. So they're just doing what they do. And they got so excited and busy that suddenly they began to turn their eyes away from one brightness to all their projects. See how their eyes are there's that little one brightness, love, the eyes of love, but they're kind of starting to look down here into all these projects, getting very exciting. You can't blame them. You can't blame them for that. It's just natural, normal. And so that's what happened. And then they got busier and busier. And they did not notice an unusual fog that was creeping in. And here's an adult in front of her computer with her cell phone and her notes and her pen and her drink and she's very, very busy. Her eyes are like bugged out. And so they saw these grown-ups working very hard, and everybody seemed worried because a fog had crept in. So here's a question. Where did the fog come from? Does anybody want to take a little stab at that? Anyone? Ron?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, very much.
I don't think anyone knows where the fog came from. I would bet that no one knows where the fog came from. But I'll tell you one thing about the fog. If we didn't have the fog, we would not rediscover that we were one brightness. Isn't that like strange? That with the fog, there are those few people that look through the fog and begin to rediscover that they are really one brightness, and then they can spread the message. But where the fog came from is buried. It's a deep, deep mystery.
Mm.
Well, thank you, Ron. Yeah,
I have an idea.
yes.
I think it was because the sparkling forgot to sparkle. They forgot. They kind of had amnesia. They kind of forgot about sparkling. And sparkling, it got so busy, didn't sparkle anymore, and that turned into a Maybe a fog.
Very sad. And by the way, so I'm on this team, and as I said, there was a theologian and a Sufi scholar, and Kurt Johnson into spirituality, and Riane. And actually, wait, Riane, one time I asked you, and you actually answered this. You gave us a sort of an idea. And because I remember I said, well, the children asked me where it come from. We're going to have a video of Riane talking about it. We'll just say, go listen to the oracle. She's the oracle. So it got foggier and foggier. And this strange fog made everyone feel separate. It just makes us feel separate because we can't see that well. And we're just not ourselves. And so wanting more began. Wanting more. That is, not enough. It's the tagline of the mind, mind, not enough. Tagline. So the strange fog made everyone feel separate. Wanting more began more toys, more attention, more pizza. So there she is, going down for the pizza. And everyone felt alone and scared. Now, in that fog, something began to happen. The animals looked sad, the plants looked sad, the water and the air. Oh, the rocks even were gloomy. Did you ever see a gloomy rock? It's really something to see a rock that's gloomy. You just wanted to cheer it up because it's such a sweet thing. It doesn't hurt anybody. Something was very wrong, and some forgot. Oh, Noel. Some forgot one brightness and started doing hurtful things to each other in the earth. And this is an opportunity here with children to open up some of these discussions about, wouldn't call it deforestation. I would not call it that, but, and pollution and plastic in the water, fighting. So these things start to surface. And once again, I think it's very interesting that we could all think about blame. Like, would we tell a 5-year-old that their species, which they're part of, is to blame and did all these bad things? Something to really think about. Most people say, no, I would never say that. I would never say that. But you can't say something to a child that you don't feel, you're blaming adults, but not blaming children. It doesn't really work well. And they hear a lot of that, the narrative is always, look what we've done to this planet, we've destroyed it. And frankly, talking today with people, I was just talking and we were saying that, plastic, remember the graduate plastic? Plastic was, it was a good idea at the time. Nobody thought it was terrible. Somebody did plastic and you said, oh, wow, look at this Tupperware, look at this, you can put everything away, it's light, it's easy, Nobody set out to destroy the atmosphere. Now, we found out that it was wrong, and a lot of people are trying to do something about that, and some people aren't. Some people, make a living on it and want it to keep on going. It's true, you can say something like that, but many, many people want to do something about it. But you can't blame us for being a young species that didn't know what plastics were going to do. We don't know what the computer's going to do. We don't know what AI is going to do. We don't know. And perhaps we're doing things, smoking. Look at smoking. Everybody was smoking, like every movie you see. So it isn't really something that was bad intentioned. So something was very wrong. But some people, this is our story. I always say, this is our story, unit of narrative. There were some people that decided to come together, to unify, together, to come together, and to look into the mysterious fog. So this is a sort of the shadow work and things that we've been doing, but I just feel I see that everywhere. I see that on the Unity Earth calls, that there are people there who are looking into the fog and they're seeing through it because people they're hopeful, they're excited, they want to do more, they see the future, they see what is good. They're not just seeing the disasters, they're looking through the fog. And, when they looked into the fog, there were monsters and it seemed full of monsters. Look at that word seemed, because it's not really real. It just seems like monsters. The fog just takes these shapes. So you're looking into those fogs. And as Yanni Maniatis came in here, contemplative alliance there. And he said, no matter how dark and spooky it may appear, one brightness is always here. So I am going to stop here now because otherwise this will be on Facebook and nobody will buy the book to find the ending, because this is our story and we are in the midst of it. And I think that we are clearing that fog. Okay, so thank you.
But it's so creative. And I don't think you mentioned, Victoria, that this artwork is all came from you.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, this is doodling. I could say just a few seconds about that.
Yes, please.
And you know what? I've been doodling all my life and I never realized it was anything. I threw everything out because it was just something I was doing without being aware of it really. But the wonderful thing about children is they love doodling. Children just, I mean, if they see my doodling, and you know, some children, the young ones, don't work with pen yet. They don't use pen in some of the schools with young children. But I have my doodling pens, and when I'm with children, I just take them out, and they just want them, and they want the paper. They doodle on everything. Then they go doodling and everything that they can find, they're just doodling. And I think it's because it's, you know, it's no effort, effortless creativity, no mind creativity. It's just something that flows out. So they actually like the books for that. And the back of the book, there are, oh, Blockbusters. In the back of the book, there are coloring pages. So you can print them out and, you know, and they can color them right on here. So,
Well,
yeah,
I
but
think you've all seen how beautiful Victoria's work is. And I certainly love what you did for Fogbusters.
and gonna go to
And
Fogbusters.
I should say that Fogbusters
Oh, this
is
is,
about our planet. And it's loosely based on my work on the partnership, domination, social scale introduced in my work. And from that perspective, the fog is the domination system, as you'll see. And I have written many books about this, but I have to confess, none of them has been for children. And so when Victoria was introduced to me, I was just thrilled that it came to that. And so, as you can see, here is Victoria's beautiful art again. And well, it starts with this bright planet of ours that we're on, the one brightness, and it also introduces a tree fairy, Olivia, who is in charge of seeing that everything is okay. And she's very upset because everything isn't okay. And frankly, it hasn't been okay for about 5,000 to 10,000 years. Before that, we were going more in a partnership direction. And so Olivia got in touch with Gaia, with Mother Earth.
well, let's hold on, not too fast yet. Well, here, there's so much that happened here with Olivia, because when I first drew Olivia, she looked I tried to find the image today. I tried to find the old image of Olivia. She was very, she was very scary looking. She was very strong. And it just came out. It just came out, you know, when I was doing it. And so, you know, I went with it. And then since we were co-creating, and everybody said that she was just too frightening and that she needed to be, you know, a little friendlier. So
And it was funny because it was the president of the Montessori Foundation, and I understand that our hostess in this program is a Montessori teacher. Am I right?
One of our guests is a Montessori teacher that's with us.
yeah,
Yes.
Annie Spade, she's from.
Yes, well, he said, no, this is too frightening. And he was right. So Victoria came to the rescue and changed her to make her more appealing.
Well, let me just say, I wouldn't say that I changed her, Riane, because what happened is I had to go back to Olivia. Because Olivia is a living thing, it's something there. So I had to go back and I was a little afraid. I said, oh my God, what's she gonna think when I tell her she needs a makeover? It's not something you want to tell a tree fairy, a tree spirit. So I went to her and I said to her, look, a lot of people think you're too scary. Could we change you a little bit? Could we do something with that? Guess what Olivia says to me? Olivia lives in the Middle Kingdom. She does not live in the everyday life. She lives in, so Olivia says to me, oh, she says, I can change anything. She says, I change my skin color. I change my skin color whenever I want. I can change my eye color. I can change my wings. I cannot have wings. I can be small. I can be bigger. I am like tree spirit fluid. She can be anything she wants to be. And so I was very happy to hear that. And then she actually told me that in the Middle Kingdom, that the Middle Kingdom is very surprised about all the stuff that's going on the earth about race, because they can't understand what we're talking about, because see, they can turn color, every color they are. And they say we're 50 shades of beige. And they say we're completely boring. They say boring, 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 boring. They're boring. They're fighting over 50 shades of beige. There's only light beige, blue beige, yellow beige, pink beige, brown beige, and there's no black and white. They said there's black and white doesn't exist at all. So they just don't understand what we're doing. So I feel like I wish I could change my skin color to turquoise. Wouldn't that be good? Just turquoise, just like that. So anyway, she was totally fine, and she's the caretaker. And this book is all about care, as you'll hear from Riane. So she was a caretaker. And then long ago, a strange fog came over the earth. It washed out all
No,
the
no, the fog was there before, and that's what upset Olivia. Was the
Yes,
fog. I mean, let's make that clear. It wasn't after Olivia. It was Olivia who got concerned and who alerted Gaia, Mother Earth.
yeah, I think, yeah. Well, that's what happened. And again, look, I like this that the mice were upset. I've never seen upset mice, but what happened is a lot of bad things started to happen. This is what I mean. This is from Riane. There was so much I learned. It's so obvious. Children, mothers, caretakers. We have like awards for Hall of Fames for football players who are, jumping all over each other and giving each other concussions. This is our value. And, Hall of Fame for musicians. Musicians are great. What can you say? They're greatest. But what happened? That motherhood and children became not a great value in our society. I can't even believe it.
Well,
So this is,
you said earlier to cut to the chase. I think children know how important care is. But unfortunately, in domination systems, and this is what my work has been, is introducing new categories. They can be Eastern or Western or Northern or Southern or capitalist or socialist or rightist or leftist, doesn't matter. But if you've noticed, all these categories marginalize or ignore the majority of humanity, women and children. But the partnership system and the domination system don't. And they look at configurations. And this configuration of the domination system, starting in families, devalues care, devalues women, because care is coded feminine, right? And women are devalued. Children, in more rigid domination systems, which we, came from, which our categories came from, actually, were devalued, and they were confined to families. And notice that our conventional categories don't include families. Isn't that interesting? They marginalize families, and they talk only about what I call the top of the domination pyramid, politics and economics as conventionally defined. And so one of the points of this book is to really show children that it doesn't have to be this way, and that we can value caring, and we can value children, and we can value women, and we can value the giving of life rather than taking of life, which is really this whole gender system of values that we've inherited. And I'm going into this because I know it's adults who buy these books for children. But the message from this book is the importance of care. But what happens, and if I may, Victoria, I'll talk for a few more minutes. If you show the next slide, you'll see that these four.
Riane, I just wanted to say something here about the fighting and winning. See, and the
It's fighting
stories.
and bullying. Well,
I
it
mean-
has to be, because in domination systems, you either dominate or you're dominated, right? There is no partnership alternative. You
It's a
win or you lose. That's it.
real question about, that somehow these children who are born with consciousness and really no mind, no opinions, no mind. I recently realized that's why I love babies and my cat, because it's not thinking. It's not thinking, it's not judging me, it's not having opinion, it's not looking at me saying this is bad, this is good. It's just being. I love being, and that form has being without thinking. So I think this all talks about this, the whole care thing is about being and not taking a look at the objects and what is the content of what's going on our planet. So yeah, Olivia was very concerned. She asked Mother Earth for help, Riane.
And guess what? These four children with eyes of care were born thanks to Mother Earth. And they came from four corners of the earth. You can see, and their names spell care. If you really look at the first letter of each one of these names. But of course, these children didn't really know about that. But they were born from these four corners of the earth. One was African American in San Francisco, another one was this blonde boy, and it is girls and boys because it models a very different view of boys not being, caring. That's nonsense, because boys can be just as caring as girls can be. It's a question of how they're socialized, isn't it? So this blonde boy from Iceland and this dark-haired, beautiful girl from Thailand, and we'll get to that. And then this wonderful boy from Rio de Janeiro in South America. And they were all born. And if you go to the next one, or do you want to say something more about?
Yeah, I do. I want to say that when Kurt Johnson told me that Riane Eisler was wanting to write a children's book, would I like to speak with her? So then I went on Google and I took, of course, took a look at the books, and whoa, you don't breeze through these books. So I was looking at the books and I was just reading little bits here, and all of a sudden I read the thing about the four cornerstones 4. And before I even got on with her, before Riane and I met, I immediately started getting that there were 4 children in the 4 corners of the earth, the 4 directions. By the time I talked to her, I said, well, listen, I don't know why, but there's an African-American girl and a boy from Iceland and Rico and Emu, and they're all coming. And they all live in the 4 corners. You see, that's a little San Francisco bridge. I just have to talk about my doodling. Oh, by the way, the color here. Now I doodle these in black and white. Then I scan them and I send them to my friend Ellen, who works in Adobe. So then we put the spreads just the way you see them now. And what she can do is, like, we can say, I said, this is the Aurora Borealis, by the way. Here's Iceland. Here's the volcano, very timely. The volcano. So we go in there and we go like, so, we're saying, okay, so the different colors, they come up and down. And she can click on here with her the little arrow. She clicks on here and then there's a whole thing on the left side with colors. And she clicks on the color and she goes over here and she clicks there and the color comes in. Then she clicks on red and puts it in there. And we just die. We don't, it's like creating the universe. This is so fulfilling. Paint by numbers, it's not paint by numbers, but it's just so much fun. And this is Mother Earth's hand, and she's got all these rings and everything. I thought Mother Earth should be like really decorative. Yeah, so she went up to the universe. See, I had a real thing about that. Is she going to God? To him? Is she going to a goddess? Where is she going? Where is she going to go ask for help? So she just let it out to the universe. And to me, no question goes unanswered from the universe. Somehow it's answered. So that's why the 4 children came. So on we go, Riane.
Well, and of course, the tree fairy whispered in the parents' ears that they should all come to the land of the tree temple. And they did, and they took their children. And as you can see, here are the airplanes, and here they are with the little red bus going and people looking out. And while the parents are sort of standing there and getting to know each other, the children entered the tree temple. And I really love the tree temple. But Victoria, you go ahead and talk about the tree temple because you've actually been there.
Yeah, this is Angkor Wat, and it's not totally like that, but it's very close. And in Angkor Wat, in some of the temples, a place called Ta Prohm, the temples kind of fell apart from the ceilings, and the roots came down through the tree temples. It's so mystical, my God, when you go there. It's just, what can you say about it? So there's the 4 children going into the temple. You see the parents are out here and they're just talking to each other. Parents are trying to get to know each other. I had a lot of trouble doing the parents' faces because I'm not an artist that does faces. I'm really a designer. I don't really do realistic things. So we did have a lot of trouble with that, but we did the best we could. So they went into the temple.
And look at what happened in the temples. These children were frightened at first, but then they saw these stones and of different colors. And they were attracted to them because children are attracted to different colors. And well, do you want to continue, Victoria, and tell them about what happened?
Yeah, these are the 4, you have to, it's sort of, I'm sorry, Riane, but those are the 4 cornerstones.
I know, my darling. They're
know.
not my 4 cornerstones. My
I
4
know.
cornerstones are the ones on which either partnership or domination systems are based, and starts with family and children, goes on to gender, because that's really it's not just a women's issue or just a men's issue or just an LGBTQ issue. It's a core organizing principle for families, for societies, and for economics, because we have a system of gendered values in which anything that's coded feminine, have you noticed that there's always money for prisons? The archetypes, the domination archetypes of the male head of a very punitive household, but somehow there isn't enough money for caring for children, for feeding children, much less for paying people to do the care work that's supposed to be done for free in a male-controlled household by a woman. And both socialist and capitalist theory, as I point out in my book, The Real Wealth of Nations, which is a play on Smith's Wealth of Nations, we've inherited that system so that GDP doesn't even ignores the three life-sustaining sectors. Can you believe that? The household economy, the volunteer community economy, and the natural economy, because it's not monetized, right? So, only, trees, they only come into GDP or GNP when they're dead, when they're logs. It's a really crazy system. It's the fog.
So true, amazing, just amazing information that we all know, but we kind of don't want to look at it real. And I don't feel like people, it's like not fun. It's not fun, but
Well, it is fun once you do look at it, because then you begin to see how these things begin to make sense that otherwise make no sense, and we've been socialized to just accept them. That's the way things are. But
Yeah.
we know, and you know from reading The Chalice and the Blade, that the evidence is that for millennia, we humans built societies that orient more to the partnership side. And
Yeah.
they were not violent. Women were not subordinate to men. They were more generally egalitarian. Yeah, and we see a lot of trends in that direction, and that's the struggle for our future, isn't it? What are we going to do? In this book is to help children, to reinforce in children their understanding of the importance of care and caregiving for women, men, and everyone in between.
Certainly, absolutely. And now since working with Riane on this, and as I said, I think it's a breakthrough book, but I think also, like for me, I really realized that the biggest violence on this earth is gender violence. It's not race, it's certainly not nationalities, it's not religion.
In group versus out group thinking, starting with the cornerstone, really, of gender, which is the in-group of mankind and the female other, and blaming Eve and Pandora, the original, the first women, for all of humanity's ills. And it's a brilliant story, happens to be untrue and makes us crazy, but that's what we've inherited. So, but
Yeah.
let's go on, because we're almost at the end of the hour.
No,
So
it actually
let's go
goes
on a little bit.
We're going on till this goes on till 9:30.
Oh, does it? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, I certainly am not going to stay till 9:30 though.
Okay.
So why don't we go on? I'll
Okay.
show what happens next. Okay.
Yeah, so this, I just loved, it was really fun, I have to tell you, doing the inside of Angkor Wat here and trying to do the concrete walls. That was really fun. And we have to have beautiful color stones for children. So the children they were a little scared. It was scary in there, okay? And then Olivia, she came right from in the tree. See, this is the tree. She's a tree spirit in the Middle Kingdom. And she came right out of the trees. And she had a beautiful voice. By the way, we have somebody from the Global Peace Tribe, Scott Katamas. What's his name? Omishar. Is it Omishar? Omishar. He's going to do a music to this. I
I
can't wait.
love that. I
He's
really love
Got to
that.
get somebody singing for Olivia. To tell you about Olivia, though, here's the other thing. The funny thing is, when I started getting it, I was thinking, I mean, what's her name, right? What is her name? And Olivia came to me. And it's usually like names in my stories have been very unusual names. But Olivia, I don't know, I said Olivia, like I didn't like, I didn't know if I liked it, but it was Olivia. And what happened is I was in Sedona for a retreat with the Holo movement. And I spoke there to Olivia Hansen, if you all know her, Olivia Hansen. She's a sweet woman, this beautiful face, and she did a meditation there. She did a little meditation for us. And frankly, I want to tell you something. After being 40 years on this path, I mean, I really I don't need guided meditations. I just like to be left alone. I like my mind to just settle down. But she did this beautiful meditation. Then when I looked at her, when I talked to her, I said, wow, this woman is just so nice, And then Olivia came to me And then I looked up and guess what the number one name for children these days is? It's Olivia. That's the most popular name for children. And Olivia Hanson is totally now enamored of children's books, might do something with us. So it's just amazing that that happened. So there was Olivia, and she came out there and she tells the children their mission. See, welcome, my friends. The universe sent you here because you have the eyes of care. You are the fog busters. You will clear the fog. Now choose your color stone. So they went up and they picked up their stones. I wish we could animate this, Riane. So they
So I
picked up,
think we will.
I hope so, it'd be so cute. So they picked up their stones and the stones immediately became care rings on their fingers. They just kind of, and you know, these care rings, they're mini computers transmitters. The care rings, we could be merchandising this. Those care rings now kept them in touch with Olivia. They can talk to her, and they have magic powers, the care rings.
And
So
they have the power to dispel the fog. And that's what they start doing.
So the children come out of the temple and their eyes of care start to open and their rings beam color as far as they could see in Asia, just in Asia, in the area that they were, and the fog started to lift. The parents, you can see here, are overjoyed. They're hugging the children, they're being with each other. I love this pink elephant. This is my favorite pink elephant. And there's these temples, and you see all the color has come back to Asia. And then though, oh, okay, well, they came back to their airports, their different countries. See, there's one airport, another airport, a third airport, and there wasn't a fourth one because Emu was still in the land of temples, because Emu is from the east. By the way, in the book are all the bios for the children, all the bios, who they are, you know, and what they live like in their different countries and what their qualities are. So they get back from the airport, and see what happened was I was speaking to Deborah Moldo, for those who know, I think everyone here knows. And so I was going by the story with her, and she said, well, what is their challenge? I mean, they're going to become fog busters. Don't they get a challenge? So I took it back to the team, and we get together and we say, what are they challenged with? And we all knew that answer. They were challenged because when they got back to the airports, the people everywhere, the news, it was in all the media that the fog was lifted in the tree temples and the news had spread. And in the airports, there were people with signs saying, we like the fog, keep the fog, I don't want change. And there were other people, some of us, we were excited. We were the people in the airport that were saying, yay, we've been waiting for this. This is what we've been waiting. We're the ones we've been waiting for. Max Hubbard. So many were worried. The kids were saying, will my cat be okay? Will it be too bright? So all this was going on, and people in the team even said, well, you know, everybody that's running the fog material, the fog industry. You know, there's a fog industry making things to live in the fog. You have wonderful things so you can deal with the fog. We didn't bring that in. We did not bring that in. We might have done it, Riane, but I would maybe say that if I was telling the story. I'd say, you know, some people were making masks for the fog and didn't want to lose their money or something. So that's what happened. And so this is all going on, and suddenly Olivia comes through with a message. She comes through with a message right through their fingers. And I'm just going to I'm going to give you a little look at that, but then I'm going to put it away. Okay. So Olivia comes through her fingers and she sends a message to the world through the care rings about what has to be done in order to lift the fog. And all I can tell you is that it's a very deep spiritual lesson, very, very deep. I mean, I think it's about unconditional care. Unconditional care. It's not a conditional care. It's not like I'll care about my mother, but I won't care about the people here. That is not going to clear the fog.
Well, that is not going to clear the fog because of the in-group versus out-group thinking, whether it's racism, anti-Semitism, Shia versus Sunni, Sunni versus Shia in some parts of the Middle East. It's all built into the system where there has to be a winner and a loser. the good guys and the bad guys. And, you know, if we can really leave behind some of the old thinking. I mean, it's a new paradigm, isn't it, to many people? But actually, the thing that's so fascinating to me is that for millennia, we lived in societies that oriented from foraging societies, from the early Neolithic societies like Çatalhöyük. You can read all about them already in The Chalice and the Blade, and there are more and more books coming out about that today, but they don't have the frame of the partnership domination social scale. And I'm hoping that we can start really not telling children that, well, that's just the way it is, but to really have books that tell children this is how it can be. In other words, not just deconstruction and protests, but reconstruction and the kind of work that all of us so want. I mean, what do we want? We want caring connection, don't we? And
Yes.
domination systems get in the way. You can have them if it's within the in-group, but then within the in-group, you've got male and female and masculine and feminine, and no, you have all of these out-groups, and it's a mess.
It's, it truly is.
I want to thank Victoria because, I mean, obviously you haven't seen the ending of the book, but that's on purpose because we want you to buy this book for the children in your lives because they really deserve to have books that really tell them who we really are. And I will tell you about another book, my latest book, which is called Nurturing Our Humanity, How Domination and Partnership Shape Our Brains, Our Lives, and Our Future, which came out in 2019 with Oxford University Press. And it's very, very, very accessible, even though it came out with this, you know, sort of, oh my goodness, I love the way that you're posting all of this stuff so quickly in the chat box. Thank you.
Mhm.
But
Well, thank you. Thank you for the time. And Riane, I know you have to leave a little early, and that's fine. But I did have a question that came in. They would like you to tell the four cornerstones again.
oh, please, I'd be very happy to. And I'd love to see who is here. But I
Most of
can't.
them are on Facebook, so you won't be able to see them.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, I'm so glad that you asked that question because I'm dying to tell you.
All right.
Well, look, we can see them very clearly if you look in our country, because we're in the United States, at the people who are in the regression to domination. Because what do they focus on? All of these battles about not controlling their children, okay? I mean, I'm not saying that they don't care for their children, and this is not about blame or shame. It's about change. Because we humans are so flexible, so adaptive. But it's very hard because you hear a lot about trauma today. And domination systems are trauma factories, starting in highly punitive families. Remember the importance of the first 5 years at neuroscience. This new book, which I started to tell you about, introduces the four cornerstones, and it relies very heavily on what we're learning from neuroscience. And as I said, it's not a technical book, it's a human book. I mean, it talks about, well, nurturing our humanity. It's a double entendre, isn't it? I mean, you know, the humanity, and we are humanity. But the good news, as that book shows, as Franz de Waal wrote in his book on empathy, you know, it's part of evolution. we have, of course, we have the capacities for cruelty and for, I'm a Holocaust refugee child. I
Mm.
mean, and this brought me to these questions. Does it have to be this way? You know, whether it's original sin or selfish genes, it's the same story. Where bad have to be completely controlled from the top, as in God-fearing, right? Fear, hate, you know, fear of woman. Oh my God, you know. But anyway, the four cornerstones. If you look at the people who are in regression, the first cornerstone is really family and childhood. I mean, they focus enormous energy on not exposing their children to a more humane, and I will say a more humane, less in-group versus out-group perspective. Okay. The second is gender. As I mentioned before, we are so used, it isn't just the people who are in regression. It's all of us. We marginalize. I mean, we're hearing more about, you know, the Me Too movement, and women are becoming leaders. I mean, you know, when I was growing up, what? You know, a woman as a leader, forget it. I mean, we had a woman's page, which was, I mean, it's really, you really need to know your history, frankly. And I have a book on education, by the way, called Tomorrow's Children. And I'm working with Tim Selden, who's the head of the Montessori Foundation, to really see whether Sarasota University can offer a certificate, especially for Montessori teachers, but for all educators. In partner, which it takes, I mean, Maria Montessori was amazing, but she came out of 2 centuries ago, you know, and this really brings, well, it up to date. So tomorrow's children, and it foreshadows a lot. So, all right, so gender. Why is gender so important? Why is it the second cornerstone? And why do the people who are in regression make such a fuss about keeping the old gender stereotypes and absolutely not recognizing gender fluidity? Why? I mean, you have to ask yourself, because it's a cornerstone. What do children learn in a family like that? They learn that difference, beginning with this difference between the male and the female form, that it's associated with superiority and inferiority, right? This in-group versus out-group thinking, with dominating or being dominated, with being served or serving. But they also learn something else. They learn that caring is coded feminine and is devalued. So right there, and you move forward to the third cornerstone, which is economics. And in the Real Wealth of Nations, I propose that, of course, we need a market. I mean, we don't happen to have a free one, but we need a market, and we certainly need progressive government policies. But it's what is valued in our economic system, what is rewarded, and caring is not rewarded. I see you. Noel is clapping her hands.
Well, I'm just, yes, I wish it were true, but it's so true. I'm just.
Well, it's so obvious, isn't it?
Mhm.
I mean,
It's,
but we're brainwashed to accept it as, oh, well, that's just the way things are, and
no health care,
No,
you know.
it is not how things have to be. Okay.
Absolutely.
So, and the fourth cornerstone, and you're in this business, story and language. So we have to start telling a new story, and we have to, like, I had to coin new language, not just the partnership and domination configurations, because that's what we're talking about here, which transcend these old categories that fragment our consciousness, but also hierarchies. You know, we don't want to throw out, so to speak, the baby with the bathwater. So I had to coin language. Hierarchies of domination, we all know those. You better follow, you better obey, or else. And the or else can be pretty brutal, frankly. I mean, all the way from spanking, which people worldwide still approve of, because we've all been taught this. I mean, it is, well, anyway. Look, what do children learn when they experience or observe violence in their families?
Right.
That it's okay, even moral, for those on top, those who are bigger, those who are stronger, to use violence against those who are not. I mean, it's such a simple lesson, isn't it? And we think nothing of it.
Mm.
Well, I could go on, but I won't. But those are the four
Oh,
cornerstones.
but that's so true. That's true.
It
So
is.
true. That's, you know, she's been, that's what happened to me. Just looking at it, it's so obvious.
Mhm.
It's
Well,
so
the
obvious.
obvious has to be articulated.
Oh, but yes, definitely. I mean, that's what you're doing. Yeah, but I just, you know, that's just all learned behavior. It is learned behavior. It is not intrinsic in our essence. One of the things about Fogbusters, I guess I'll give you a hint, in terms of what Olivia, the tree spirit, you know, she's the children open their eyes of care. But again, say you're talking to a 6-year-old and you can't tell. At least I wouldn't tell a 6-year-old they have to love everyone and care for everyone. It's not possible. Not possible with our conditioning to care for everyone in our mind, the way it's set now, in our persona, and what we appear to be, a person. That is a higher faculty of something much more divine. But the thing about that is children can remember that. The younger they are, the more they remember that. And just the fact that you, like I would say, when I had Spirit Club, so many challenges happened to speak that truth to children as much as I could, in terms of if they would ask me, you know, my parents don't believe in fairies or something, you know, I'll be like, well, I don't want to say anything against the parents, you
No,
know.
and this is a very good problem, but children know that what counts is care. I mean, they just
Well,
know
for
it. You ask a child what's your best relationship, and they will inevitably describe a partnership relationship where you are respected, where there's mutuality. And
Mhm.
if you ask them what's your worst relationship, they will inevitably describe a domination relationship where you're bullied, where you really aren't seen, where you aren't heard.
Mhm.
You know, the old domination system that we've inherited, right? So,
I think
well,
what I was trying to say is that is that that we can't, religion has told us forever that we should share, that we should be good people, that thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not, many things. They've told us many things we shouldn't do. But that has not worked because we keep on.
no, but
Let me just finish. We can't
oh,
do it.
okay.
I feel like speaking to children, like they know what care is. And they also would know the truth that on a superficial level, we cannot care and love everyone. That is just not going to happen. That is not possible. And the fact that that's not possible is, to me, the real key, because there's something deeper. There's something that is intrinsically knowing and loving that doesn't have to be developed. It's already there. It doesn't have to be adjudicated. It doesn't have to be told that this is how you should be or that you have to become it. That connection with care that I feel that is being, Riane is talking about, is what we really are. What we really are. And the more that is, as you said, articulate, the more that is brought to recognition. It's a recognition and discovery that care, like we said, one brightness is always there. It's always there. The sun is always there. The sun is always shining. We may think when the clouds come and that there's no sun, but the sun, and that care is always there. It's always
Well,
intrinsic.
it's always there,
That's what I feel is the message
but
for me.
unfortunately, Victoria, our scriptures at the core of them are these partnership, if you will, feminine teachings
Oh,
of
yeah.
love, of care. Isaiah, for example, in the so-called Old Testament, the Jewish Testament, says, you know, he's the one who started what Jesus became known for, which is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That was Isaiah. But then there's this dominator overlay, which those who are in regression. And one of the projects, I mean, there are two projects that I really want to emphasize are so related to religion. One is sorting those teachings and using the frame of the partnership domination systems. And I talked to a Muslim guy who's a Sufi, and he's afraid of getting killed. You know, if he joins in that endeavor. It's not so simple, but we've got to do it. The other is what I call intimate violence. You know that Putin reduced the penalty for family violence in Russia, so that if you hurt or kill a child, a woman, and this is in a nation where killing women is in families is huge, okay? Or a man, your penalty is less than if you hurt or kill a stranger. Why? Because he gets the connection that those in regression get between a top-down, authoritarian, highly punitive, rigidly male-dominated family and that kind of a state. Whether it's religious like the Taliban or Iran, or Hamas for that matter, whether it's secular, it doesn't really matter. And then you get into this terrible dynamic of having to defend yourself against the dominators. And I, as a Holocaust survivor, have to say that it has to be a global shift.
Absolutely.
But of course, what we spend on so-called defense is out of this world. I mean, it's ludicrous. But this said, we do need to defend ourselves. There's no question, until there is this mindset change. And that's what this work is about. And that's why I love this Fogbusters book, because I think children should have books.
Right. Riane, I just want to say that Ron has been trying to jump into the conversation here, and go ahead, Ron. And then I'd like to say something, and if anyone else like to say something, just let me know. Just give me a wave, and go ahead, Ron.
You know, it strikes me that nature gives us a very good head start into the caring world. When a child is born, they are completely dependent on the caring of a figure that they don't fully understand yet. For them, caring comes from the universe. It is so important, the early years of a child, that they develop this feeling for a caring universe. And then it becomes differentiated into father, mother. But we have a fantastic head start. The problem is, how do we use this head start? We also have other issues, absolutely. But we come into the universe dependent on caring.
Well, and that is really what I bring out, by the way, in nurturing our humanity. So thank you, Ron. I mean, if you look at the neuroscience, yes, we have both these capacities for caring and for cruelty, but we know that the whole conversation about genes versus, nature versus nurture, it's a red herring. It is nature and nurture.
Yes.
And fathers can be just as involved as so many men are now, as our mothers, diapering babies, feeding babies. So, it is a cultural thing, isn't it? So
Yes.
thank you so much, Ron, for bringing that up. And I see Annie has her.
Yeah, I'd like to invite in our Montessori teacher. Go ahead, Annie.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I know there's not much time left, but the artwork is marvelous, and really see how this resonates with children who are moving into the age of reason. I'm really appreciating what Ron brought in just then. That was really what I most wanted to bring in, because I've been working with 2 to 6-year-olds for 4 decades in Montessori, and you know, this sense of having first been cared for. And so as I listen to both of these books, I'm going, it's like the second book. There's a first book. And I started those conversations with my little ones early on. And they're just so hardwired and ready to hear more about that. Yes, they have an innate knowing, and Victoria, you called that in early on, and I really appreciated that. You know, and also a hunger for the essence of things. So that's there, but we still have to, and I say have to, it's still upon us to flesh that out for them. In other words, invite them to feel gravity holding their bodies.
And
Invite them into breath work. I mean, the look on their faces when you suggest to them to take a breath in, a breath out, and then pause before we take the next one, and begin to deepen that breath and to recognize that we breathe all day and all night. And in fact, we exchange air with the plants and animals, and that the plants, you know, transfer the gases into carbon dioxide, you know, into oxygen for us from carbon dioxide, you know, that whole thing, and the water cycle, how our bodies are mostly water. And I'm telling you, 2-year-olds are sitting there just absorbing all of that. And I just recognize that these are facts, science facts, that we learned in that age of reason later on. But it's the child before 6, before 7 for sure, that is just hardwired to fall in love and to be in wonderment over these things. And so that's that receiving that Ron's talking about, that receiving the caring from the universe, and then the child does just naturally overflow. So you're speaking to children who are in a stage of life. It's very natural to the 6 to 12-year-old to want to begin to care for others. And yet it's so terribly important for them to have this opportunity to have feasted on the way that we have been nurtured first. And so I just encourage the writing of a book for the younger children, because that's really something that I'm actually in semi-retirement this year. We closed our school after 30 years. The last school I had, we closed in May, and yeah, it's absolutely something that I think is needed out there, and is not really readily available for children to just really bring out these marvelous facts, scientific facts that are all about nurturing. Yeah.
I think,
So thank you both for your work. Yeah, it's amazing.
Thank you. We
And
have
can
to
I just
reward caring.
can I
We
just
have
talk?
to reward it, and we also have to not. This confluence of caring and coercion is a disaster. You know, for all of us, not just for the children directly involved. But Noel, you wanted to say, and thank you so much, Annie, for sharing.
I'll just say one short thing is that, you know, it's been often quoted that Dalai Lama said that the world will be saved by the Western woman. And I'm thinking like, oh, no. I love how it's going to be the children that are, they're coming in with this new energy, new ideas, new receptivity. And I just love these books because they're the heroes. I love they're just, they inspire me. So
I love
as
that.
do you, Victoria and Riane.
Can I just say, I just want to respond to Annie.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that my whole time with the children, my training was not to teach them. Because my training was to keep inside the mechanical reactions that I had that have been taught for me forever about, I didn't study teaching, so I don't know, but whatever, like if a child jumps on a table in a clay class, what do you say? In the old days, you'd say, get off that table. In the new days, you say, tables are not for jumping. Please get off the table. That was the new learning kind of thing. However, child jumps on the table in clay class, and I'm sitting there and by that moment of consciousness, that moment when that reaction does not mechanically flow from all the conditioning that I've learned about what a teacher or a mother or a sister or brother is. And then what happens is I look at the child and I go, how does it seem to you for me to be smaller than you? Something brand new comes into the picture, and the whole class lights up because it's awareness, it's consciousness, it's not mechanicality. And so I'm saying a lot of my work was for the very young children was not to teach them. Like, actually, I had a teacher said, Victoria, if you teach these children how to make pots, I'll break your legs. I had a spiritual teacher. He said, no, he said, you just have to see what the essential thing is. Try to recognize that essential thing and not react to these children in the mechanical way that you would have always reacted from all the learning that you've gotten, which again, nothing terrible. You could be a good teacher, or you could be a bad teacher. You could be a mean teacher or a good teacher, but you're still not, it's not to be a teacher. And especially with young children, I just felt like it was so wonderful when I could remember that and just not, then I began to see them and how aware they were and how, alive they were and how present they were in their circumstances and how wise they were and how essentially wise, just simple, like we're saying, simple, wanting to care, for the little bugs. You see the little bug, So
I wish you were my teacher. Well, you are my teacher. And Riane.
I want to thank you all so much for everything, and I want to thank you, Noel, for hosting this, and I certainly want to thank Victoria. And you know what you were saying, Victoria, partnership teaching is not, it's about choices. It's about pattern recognition. It's about valuing and rewarding caring. It's because the educare is really to draw force, just as you said. That, I mean, you have intuited that that's what real teaching is to draw force.
Sure.
And how do we draw force, though? By modeling, by rewards. And so there are a lot of people who are changing, and that's movement towards the partnership side. People who are resisting that, they're not to blame because they're traumatized, frankly. Many of them starting in early childhood, and we have an economic system that certainly traumatizes. I mean, domination economics misdistributes resources completely, doesn't invest in caring for children, which it should, and nurturing children. I mean, it's a mess. So we got to get our priorities.
But I think what you all have brought to us is a pathway that, I hope that those that are listening now in the room, those of you on Facebook, those of you who are going to pick this up later, I'm going to make sure that the references, how to find these lovely books is available. And what a great time to pick them up and share them. This, if you want to give a gift that's really going to make a difference to help with that shift that we're all wanting on this planet, you two have brought us a tremendous gift tonight. So I want to thank you both, Victoria and Riane.
Well,
And Victoria, do you have a final word that you want to share with us?
No,
I'm calling on all of you to be agents in the shift from domination to partnership, because that's how it happens. It happens through human agency. And it's not enough to protest and to criticize. You have to present a viable alternative. And that's what these books
Beautiful.
really are about, emphasizing care, and my books too, But listen, I'm gonna go, and I thank you, and keep up the wonderful work, and special thanks to Victoria.
Thank
for
you.
her
Thank you
beautiful
both.
work.
Thank you everyone for coming and for everyone that will pick this up. I'm going to buy the books, but do I have to give them to children?
Beg your pardon?
So
You don't have to give it to children. We can keep it ourselves.
We wrote it for you, Noel. We wrote them for
Oh,
you.
yes. Okay. Thank you, everyone. And we'll
Thank
see
you, one
again
and
next
all. What a
Thursday.
wonderful evening. Thank you.
Beautiful
I want to
discussion.
thank you, Bob, and thank you for all your wonderful posting. I really
You
appreciate
You
it.
bet. We've found our books we're going to listen to on our round trip to DC next week. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you. Bye-bye.